So, I mean, from the invite, as we did highlight that today's session is mostly on bringing awareness. We know that we are currently going to be going to register for the local elections. So we just want to bring that awareness to action to give you an understanding of civic participation and also to understand what is your role as a young citizen, right? Because we've done a session before on the importance of voting where we invited our guest speaker, which we have today. Some of you have met Tessa from our last Think Tank Thursday session where we spoke about voting, but she will also come today just to give us a brief overview on, what can we learn on civic participation and how can we use our voice basically. As we are young people, we are youth, we should be able to exercise that right to, enable that we have a voice as young citizens. So yeah, that's basically an overview of what to expect from today's meeting. But we're going to begin with a bit of introduction because it's always nice to know the people that are joining online. So from the chat box, please proceed to introduce yourself. If you're joining with your supervisor or you're joining with your colleagues, please do let us know. I see from the chat, there is Enrico from Learn to Live. We have Mangaliso from the Eastern Cape, Sipogasi joining from Beautiful Gate. We have Lesejo joining from PTP. We have Fusiami joining from Soweto, Bonke from Holongmo, Anele is joining from Cuddles Project in Cape Town. We also have Judy from Masiza Cape Primary School, Rich from K-Mesh Trading, Mpho Sinaki is also online. Thank you so much for joining, Mpho. Junaid, also from Sovenga Beverages. We have William online from Tau Power Tool. We also have Luhwadi from Eagle, Nozipo from PTPI. We also have youth joining from Daughter's Trading, youth joining from Emily's Playhouse, also youth joining from Shosholoza Brand Custodians. So I see that a lot of you are joining from different locations. It's always exciting to see all our youth online during our Think Tank Thursday sessions. Tepang is joining from Pexshaw Analytics. We also have Dorothy from Pex Africana Construction. Ria Leboga is joining from Fencott. Thank you so much for joining. Tejofato from Umuzi. Gladys is here from Four Ways. We also have Mary from Jali Holding Group. I see some of you are representing KZN. You're joining from KZN. There is Iniso from Durban, Ritabile Lisekwa. We also have Dinzwalo from Bomba Science. So please feel free to just proceed and introduce yourself in the chat. So in the midst of looking at time, I mean, we usually just start with any introduction that we might have before we can introduce our speaker, and then she can take us through what to expect in the next hour. But we have a brand ambassador. Remember, every Think Tank Thursday session, we do spotlight youth who are doing great, either youth or alumni, people who've been part of the program. And, they've been showing up and really bringing the impact of the year's program. So from today's session, we do have an exciting alumni who will be spotlighted as our alumni of the month, which is Prince Maujane. Prince, I'm not sure if you're able to unmute yourself and maybe briefly introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your journey since you were part of the year's program. So Prince is our alumni brand ambassador for the month. So congratulations to you, Prince. Yeah, over to you. Are you able to unmute, Prince? Okay, so it doesn't seem like we're getting any audio from your end. But yeah, basically we're just celebrating you. Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone. I'm Tlatla Prince Mojani from Davidson, and I'm gonna be your next biggest, youngest entrepreneur in the next coming years. So yeah.
Yeah, so also tell us about your journey, Prince. I mean, you've been part of the program. What are you doing now? Since you did tell us that you have a side hustle going on and a registered business, which is going very good. How is it going?
Okay, on our side, I started Cyber Care in 2024. So Cybercare basically it's an IT company whereby we offer all ICT services to the new businesses that are struggling to hire their IT internal staff. Then we offer different services from IT support, printer services, software application. We also resell licenses to the companies, and we just making sure that we're trying to bridge the gap in a township whereby it's very, very scarce to see a small business whereby they have their IT internal staff. So many businesses they
Oh, sorry, Prince, you are muted.
yes, I just saw a gap there. Then I started to open this company. Then I saw a potential where in my area people who are owning businesses, small businesses, they'll be interested in me, whereby they call me and to offer my services. Even teachers too, they call me to assist them with their laptops, sometimes licenses, sometimes you see, and
Oh,
schools and so
great.
on.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and what you're doing now post the program. So, congratulations on being highlighted as our brand ambassador for the month, and all the best to the beginning of your company. And we wish you the best.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, that was it. So yeah, so now we're gonna hand it over to our guest speaker, Tessa Dooms. Tessa, thank you so much for also having time in your busy schedules just to join us today and take us through, that bringing the awareness to the youth. So maybe if you can also unmute yourself so that the youth can see you and also introduce yourself. Over to you.
Good afternoon, the youth. Thank you so much for having me this afternoon, Youth at Work and this community. It's really exciting to see a committed group of young people who are organizing themselves on a continuous basis and are bringing together your thoughts, your views, your voices, and supporting each other. It is extraordinarily important that spaces like the one that you are creating exists. I've worked in youth development for a long, long time. And at some point, I worked in particularly youth employment and youth entrepreneurship. And one of the things that I found extraordinarily frustrating about the space was that everybody was focused on getting young people in and out of programs, but we were not actually nurturing young people. We were not actually journeying with young people. And so this is about journeying with young people. What you're doing is journeying with each other as young people. And we need a lot more of this. And I'm going to talk a little bit about organizing, even as we talk about voting. But I want you to understand that what you are doing is not in vain. Coming together, having over 400, I didn't even check what the last 600 young people giving up their time together on a weekday is no small feat in a country like ours. It means that there's commitment, there's interest, there's passion, and this can be harnessed for something great. So I firstly just want to applaud you and thank you for inviting me back. All right. I now wish that I had taken up the offer of doing polls, because there's actually only one poll that I have in mind, which is just to ask if people are registered to vote. So maybe I won't do a poll, but let's do a show of hands. How many of the people on the school are registered to vote? If you're registered to vote, raise your hand. Raise your virtual hand. So I'm looking at the hands raised. And my estimation is that there's probably not more than 100 hands raised on this. And again, a poll would have been a lot more accurate. You can put your hands down. But even on a group like this, where you have people who are clearly civic-minded, engaged, and willing to participate, it's a minority of people, and not only young people, but a minority of people who are registered to vote. And you guys can put your hands down now. And that's true in South Africa in general. So I'm going to go through a lot of stats today, but I don't want to start with all of those stats. I just want to give you this first one, is that currently there are about 27 million people who are registered to vote. And the voter registration stays open and accumulates over time, right? So we'll get even more people hopefully registering this year. But that is out of about 42 million people who are over the age of 18. So everybody over the age of 18 is eligible. But out of the 42 million who are over the age of 18 and could be registered, only 27 million are registered. Now, that shows that people do not see the value in voting to the extent that they're not even giving themselves a chance. That's an extraordinarily big problem, because registering at least says that you are interested enough in the process of voting and elections, that you are willing to put yourself in the position to engage in the conversations, engage in the debates, engage in all of the issues, and of course, eventually as well to vote. But when you don't even have people registering to vote, we have a huge, huge problem. So I put that up front to say that this is the reason why the talk I'm about to give, I believe, is important, and why I think we have to pay attention to each other and to this subject matter. So let me start off with the fact that it's local government elections, and that many people, and particularly young people, do not think that local government elections are as important as national elections. That's borne out by the fact that in the last two national elections, we've had over 16 million people vote. But in the last two local government elections, we've had approximately initially about 13 million people, and then 12 million people showed up to vote. So we have a problem that fewer people show up to vote for local government. That gets even worse when you talk about by-elections. So by-elections in a ward, there's usually between 4,000 and 10,000 people who are registered to vote in a ward, depending on whether you're in a metro or in a smaller municipality. If 2,000 people show up for a by-election, it's a lot. If even half of those people who are registered actually show up, it's quite a lot. So people just don't have as much interest in the local government election. But I want to say that the local government election, especially for young people, is exceptionally important. I would actually say the local government election is in some ways more important than the national election, because the local government election is about the absolute coal-face issues that you face every day. It is about the things that make your life work on a daily basis. It is about water, it is about electricity, it is about roads, it is about energy, it's about housing, and it's about jobs. It is about the bare basics of our lives working. I call it the life or death elections. Local government is a life or death election. And you know this if you've ever faced a water cut. So in the home that I live in, 2 months ago, we had a water cut in our area for 22 days. 22 days. That's life or death if you don't have the resources and if you don't get the water tankers coming out on time. That's life or death. Water is life or death for 3 weeks. There are people in this country who have gone on and off without water for years. Life or death. There are people in Hammanskraal who have had contaminated water for years. Local government is a life or death election. That's the importance of it. But it is also about economic participation. And so, yes, we're going to talk about potholes and all sorts of things in this election. But one of the things that parties have failed to do is focus on what we call local economic development. And local economic development is how you translate the macroeconomic initiatives into real jobs in real communities for real people. And so we actually need really good people who understand how to build real economies on the ground in communities so that we can actually have jobs for people. So we've seen marches around questions of spaza shops, for example. Spaza shops are supposed to be part of a local economic development plan. Micro enterprises, the bylaws of a municipality have a lot of sway in terms of how informal traders happen, for example. The idea of how close or far you live from a work opportunity. Transport, that's a local issue, and it's a local economic development issue. That's a local government election issue. And so I'm saying to everyone that I think we mustn't underestimate how important these elections are. My view, in fact, is that if parties are serious, they should get their best people to be councillors, not ministers. The best people should be councillors, not ministers. And I'm not saying mayors, by the way. I'm saying councillors. Because every single councillor that gets elected has the ability and the potential to be a mayor. So let's talk about the city of Joburg, and I'm going to use it as an example quite a bit. But in the city of Joburg, we elect 270 councillors. 135 of those are ward councillors, and 135 come from the party lists. Now, usually, parties start talking about mayoral candidates. We don't vote for mayors. We only vote for ward councillors or PR councillors. When those 270 people are elected and they come together for their first council meeting, it is those people, the 270 in the city of Joburg, who amongst themselves elect a mayor. Now that means that any one of those 270 people could be mayor. So when you're thinking about who do you want as your ward councillor, I want you to think, would you want that person to be the mayor of your city? That's how important voting for a ward councillor is. Would you want the fate of your water, sanitation, and jobs in the hands of that ward councillor? Because that ward councillor could become mayor. Every single councillor that we put in across this country needs to be of the quality that they could run a city, they could run a town on a life or death basis. Who are you willing to trust your life with? That's what this election is about. Who are you willing to trust in a life or death situation? That's the councillor that you need to elect. So I hope I've convinced you that these elections are important. Now we're going to talk a little bit about, actually, let me pause there. I want us to just have a 5-minute conversation. Just some hands around that provocation that I've given you now. And if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts you want to share, let's just take 5 hands maximum on that. I see some people saying they want to be mayors. That's good. Can we have 5 hands that just respond to what I've said now? And then I'll go to the rest of the second part of my talk. Do we have 5 hands? Denise? So I'll note up to Tinswalo. So we've got our 5 hands. So Cliniso, unmute yourself and chat.
I think we've lost Cliniso.
All right. Zinhle?
Good day, ma'am.
Yeah.
My name is Zinhle from Ukanyiselo Technologies. I've been listening to you and you're talking about these things of mayor and voting thing. To be honest, I do vote, right? But I have a problem when it comes to the councillors of our area. The thing is, yes, it is our duty to vote for the right person, right? But the thing is, there is a lot of corruption when it comes to these things. because I've noticed that we will vote for the best person, and then it will end up getting another person that we didn't even vote for. And then the Romas will say that, okay, there are those people, the people that were elected, that they are buying people to vote for the other person, all of those things. So I really have a problem with that. At the same time, we will vote and hoping that, okay, we'll get out from the sharks, we'll get out, there will be someone who will take care of the area. All right. But it happens that all of those things doesn't happen. There will be sewages that is happening in the streets. There will be no water. At the same time, there will be some of the people who are selling their RDP houses. You know.
Yeah.
So I really have a problem with that. Yes, we'll vote, but now I am lacking interest on voting because I don't even see the reason for voting.
All right. Thanks, Claire. I think that's a really important a point that you're making. So I'm going to ask everyone. So we've only got Michael, Civic, Gladys, and Ayanda, and then we're going to move each of you to give your view, question, or comment in a minute. So Michael Temba, please unmute. Okay. Okay, there we go.
I think let's
We can hear
move
you.
to.
All right. Civic, you're struggling with Michael?
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. 1 minute. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Now I have I hear what you said, and now I think I get the importance of voting because I'm 25 years this year, and I've never registered to vote in my life, and I think I qualified at the age of 18, if I'm sure, or 21. I don't even know the age because I've never been interested in voting. But now I see the effect of me not having the interest in voting, because when something happens or our leaders, they don't deliver services, I complain, but then I don't have a hand in putting that leader in position, if I may say. So I think, yeah, it's very important for the youth to be active in like politics, because for my side, it was a matter of not wanting to be interested in politics rather than the fact that I wanted to vote or anything, because of how they work in the, I don't like the conspiracy, the corruption and stuff. So I think now that you are explaining it, it makes so much sense, to the point that I if I'm not late, but I think I am, I cannot register to vote now, but maybe next time I will. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Civic. Gladys?
Okay, good day, everyone. My name is Gladys from Ahankabatlale Skills Development Center. Okay, ma'am, I'm 29 years old now. I've been voting past few years, but since last year, I never registered for voting. Reason being, there's somewhere by you be voting, and then in some few weeks or days, you hear they saying there are some leaking vote papers, whereby it shows that there's a corruption inside our code. There's other Madam Zandile or Zintle, she mentioned that there's a corrupt in voting papers. So and the other thing that I wanted to code is that our councillors, they are also corrupt, by whereby there are some of opportunities. Whenever they came, they took the people they know. They don't follow the procedure. They just take, for example, if they say there's a company somewhere, somehow it's opened, and then they are leader of that company, they're gonna take their relatives.
Yeah.
That's
Now I hear you.
my issue.
And thanks for raising both of those.
To stop. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks. Let's do, we're doing two last hands, Ayanda and then Tansa, and then I'm going to continue. Ayanda?
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay, I am Ayanda from Lori Wealth and Financial Services. I don't have much to say, but in terms of voting, I think the issue narrows down to the fact that the government is not doing anything with regards to reducing the employment numbers. And I also feel like if they want the youth to vote, they should also do like an expo where companies meet together to invite the youth to bring in their CVs, and they can see where they can place them. Also, it's very difficult to expect someone who is a fresh graduate to have at least 5 years experience. The requirements are just a delusion, honestly speaking. I think they should also work on lowering the expectations and focus more on just working on the employment side and then building everything up together, because they're always releasing the tenders and the guarantees. But when it comes to the employment numbers, it's just hush hush. It's always swept under the carpet. And also another thing, I think why I do not feel like I need to vote anytime soon again is because, some candidates do not have money to go for interviews. And then you do go for the interview and then you get this high expectation.
People who need to show up for a vote in order for that vote to be valid, in order for it to be a legitimate election. So I said 27 million people are registered. If only, and I'm not even being sarcastic here, if only 100 people showed up to vote on voting day, those 100 people would represent all of us in the country. They won't care that 27 or 26 million people didn't show up. Those 100 people will be the people who will count as 100% of the vote. Politicians prefer that we don't show up to vote, especially when we are not politically marching and all of that about the marching. Politicians actually don't mind marching. They don't mind us marching. Yes? There's a bit of a feedback, guys. I don't know how we get rid of that.
There's an echo coming from your end.
Is it my end? Is that better?
Okay. It's clear now, yes.
Okay. Politicians don't mind that we march. In fact, I think they prefer that we march. Because you can march and get tired. You can march and be over. But voting has a lot of power immediately. Can change their lives. And
Tessa?
yeah, I think there's mics that are open.
Guys, if there's someone whose mic is open, can you mute your mic, please?
Panele, Fortunate, Denver.
Okay, I think we can hear you now. Sorry about that.
So what I was saying is that when it comes to marching, politicians actually don't mind us marching. They will let us march, in fact. Because other than creating awareness, marching doesn't have immediate power, but voting does. Voting can actually hire and fire politicians. And so they would prefer for us not to vote. So we think that we are punishing politicians by not showing up. But here's the math of elections. The fewer people show up, the easier it is for parties to win. So let's use just simple math, right? If 5 people show up to vote and 3 of them vote for the Green Party, 1 of them votes for the Blue Party, 1 of them votes for the Purple Party. The Green Party clearly wins, right? If 10 people show up to vote and the Green Party still gets 3 votes, all of a sudden they go from 50% to 30%. Can you see how showing up actually works against politicians rather than for them. When we show up to vote in numbers, it makes it harder for politicians to win. So in Botswana, Botswana has had a liberation party that has been winning every year since their liberation, over 40 years now. It took one election where young people showed up in numbers. They went from about 50% turnout to 88% turnout. And the entire liberation movement wasn't just that they went into coalition. The entire liberation movement and their coalition got kicked out of government in one election because young people showed up. Politicians do not want you to vote. So when you don't vote, you help them, not yourself. So let me take you through the numbers, because if there's one message I want you to leave with today, is that politics and voting is a group sport. It's not an individual endeavor. It's a group sport. And political parties know that. That's why they create groups of themselves. But we as voters approach voting like we are individuals. And that's why it feels like your one vote doesn't matter. It doesn't count. But if you approach it the way it should be, which is a group effort, your vote starts to feel more powerful immediately. Voting is a group sport. Politicians know that. That's why they create groups. And we as voters need to start voting with each other rather than voting alone and hoping for the best. It's a group assignment. So have you ever done a group assignment and only one person does the assignment, but the rest of the group gets the benefit? And then if you that one person who did the assignment and the rest of the group were just slacking off and you get something wrong, all of a sudden the rest of the group are upset with you because their mark is now dependent on what you did. Your mark, the mark of this country, whether we are going to be an A+ country or not, cannot be left to one group member that you hope is going to do the right thing. You have to check the members of your group and figure out what they are going to be using their vote to do. Now, of course, your vote is your secret, but you can tell your secret if you want to. But we can also ask people questions like, why are you voting? Why are you not voting? Why have you decided to vote for whoever you're going to vote for? What are the issues you care about? What do you hope your vote will change? Because we need to start understanding why people are voting the way they're voting, why they're not voting, and how we can use our vote better. So here are the stats. I already told you about the broad stats, right? But I want to show you why voting is a group sport, very specific numbers, especially for young people. In the country where I said that 40 million people are over the age of 18, 21 million of those people over the age of 18 that are eligible to vote are all under the age of 35. 21 million are between the ages of 15 and 35. 14 million of those people who are between the ages of 18 and 35 are not registered. 14 million young people between the ages of 18 and 35 are not registered. Now let's take this to the election. In the last national election, 16 million people voted and 6 million people voted for the ANC, which was the biggest party. The 14 million young people that are unregistered could have beat the ANC twice over had they registered and voted. There were almost as many people who voted as there were young people who were unregistered. The power of the unregistered vote in this country could change the country in one election. Let's take it to the city of Joburg, because that's where I am, just to illustrate the point further. In the city of Joburg, there are 2.4 million people who are young in this city. In the city of Joburg, there are also 2.3 million total registered voters. There are more young people over the age of 18 and under 35 than there are registered voters in the city of Joburg. Young people in the city of Joburg could outvote everybody who's registered right now. Young people in the city of Joburg who are unregistered, if registered, could outvote all registered people in the city of Joburg and decide who's the councillors in the city of Joburg. So when I say that young people could change this country, I don't mean it lightly. I mean that if young people, even in some small ways, organized themselves and decided to barter and use their vote, they could change the country. You guys could change the country. I'm going to give you an example of somewhere on the continent of Africa where it happened, and it's going to lead me into a next point. There's a group called Youth for Parliament in Zambia. Youth for Parliament was started in 2018 by 22 young people who were all trying to actually become candidates because they had said to themselves, if we don't know who we want to vote for, we can vote for ourselves. Every person in the country that is eligible to vote is eligible to be voted for. So if you're saying, I don't know who to vote for, ask yourself two questions. Why am I not voting for myself? And number two, is there nobody I know in my community that I would vote for? If I don't trust the political parties, if I don't trust the politicians, you don't have to vote for a politician. You can vote for yourself. You can vote for other young people. You can vote for community leaders you trust, especially in a local government election. And so they decided that they were going to put themselves and other young people on the ballot together. 22 of them met in 2018. They started a movement that they did not register. They didn't register it as a party. They all belonged to different parties, in fact. But they said they were going to mobilize together to get young people elected as councillors. They got 60,000 young people across the country to volunteer, no money, no stipends, to volunteer in their wards to mobilize people to vote for a young person to be the councillor. 60,000 young people signed up to volunteer to get other young people in their wards elected. They found 500 young people who were willing to run as councillors, and they got 100 young people, 108 young people elected in 2021. 108 young people elected in 2021 across different political parties. I want to say to you, if you don't know who to vote for, start thinking about why you are not voting for yourselves as young people, as community leaders, because you can. The other thing about that story is also to say that voting is not your only voice in a democracy. Your vote is not your voice is your voice. Voting is one tool in your democratic voice. There are other tools, but you have to organize for all of them. You need to organize for all of them. So there's a saying that says, don't agonize, organize. Organizing has become something that we only associate with political parties and politicians. Now, organizing is not just gathering. Organizing is not just coming together. Organizing is deciding on what you think collectively needs to be changed and starting to take small actions collectively to change them over time. I want to encourage you guys to organize for the election, even as voters. Whether you have in mind that you want to be voted for, or you have somebody you want to vote for, or whether or not you are a voter deciding that you want to vote. Organize together towards the election. So you care about young people's employment and things like experience, things like how much it costs. Organize together so that your voice collectively matters enough to politicians that they respond to it. Sometimes it's not even about how many of you there are. There's a lot of talk happening around migration and the migrant advocacy that's going on. All of us who've lived in a township area or rural area know that migrants are not necessarily the biggest, most pressing issue in your community. It's an issue, but it may not be the biggest issue. But if you organize, organizing helps amplify your issue. So let me be very blunt. In South Africa in 2025, there were 13,000 protests throughout the country. In terms of migration, it's not even, there weren't even 20 anti-migrant protests last year. But that protest has been the loudest. Now, I don't want us to debate the merits of that issue. I just want to say to you that if you organize for your issue can make politicians start to put it on their agenda as well. So this is the last example I'm going to make. And then I want to just address one more issue. In Germany, there's a group called Fridays for Future. Fridays for Future is a group of teenagers who care about climate change. What they did in 2021 in Germany is that Fridays for Future organized themselves every Friday in their communities to do an activation to raise awareness about the importance of climate issues. By the time the election happened, Fridays for Future, a group of 1.2 million teenagers, most of them who couldn't vote, got every political party to put something into their manifesto about climate change. And I asked those young people, I said, most of the young people are teenagers, they can't vote. Why did politicians listen to you and take climate change seriously? And they said, we told them that each of us have 2 parents who vote. So if they don't care about our issues, we will tell our parents not to care about them. So if you want politicians to care about your issues, organize for it. And then I'm going to make a last point, and then I'll open up for you guys to give last points and questions. Trusting elections and the electoral system. I know that that has become a big issue as well. Elections in this country are not without fault, but I can say that we do have one of the most reliable electoral systems, not because there aren't people who may try and manipulate it, but because the process in itself can actually be traced, questioned, challenged, and we can actually get answers. So even though we may have trust issues with the system, we at least have processes where we can test the outcomes. But I also want to say that one of the things that we also have to do as voters is we have to protect the vote. So there's an organization called Groundwork Collective, and they have come up with a voter observation program where they've gotten, in the 2024 election, they got 5,000 people to volunteer to vote, to be voter observers and go and observe what's happening at voting stations, to be observers in the process. So if you're worried about the quality of the election, volunteer to be an observer. I hope that I've at least made you think about this election differently and that we can start thinking about how we organize ourselves. In your local ward, if nothing else, if you find even 100 people who you can vote with them about similar issues, and you can test out those candidates on the issues you care about, and you guys can find 10 people each. So let's say 100 of you decide you all care about young people having access to employment opportunities. And you get 100 people who care about that, and they get 10 people each committed to vote with you guys for your cause. That's 1,000 voters. 1,000 voters in a ward can change the course of an election. In one ward in the Northwest, 2 votes were the difference between Action SA winning and Action SA losing. Action SA won by 2 votes in one of the wards a few months ago. So every vote does count. So I'm going to leave it there and hope that that's given us enough to chew on, and then take the last 10 minutes for questions. Your hand is up.
Hi, sorry. Thank you so much for this presentation. It was very insightful. I don't think I have much of a question. I just want to point out something, right? I think also us as youth, we have this mentality that the government owes us jobs, and most of the things are being blamed on the government, and people forget that before Ramaphosa, there were other governments. So when he was put in power, he took whatever issues the governments before him didn't fix. And it doesn't take 10 years or 20 years to fix what other governments couldn't fix at that time. There is a lot that needs to be done, and there's still a long way. We can go back and forth regarding the government, politics, voting. The system is dysfunctional. It's at one point, but then also I feel like the youth should always take a stand against what they want. It won't be easy, obviously, to do that. You need connections, you need people to help you out. But then I think also the youth needs to stop complaining, oh, we don't have this, we don't have that. The councillor is not doing this. Why don't we take a stand and do what we're complaining about? If you feel like the job opportunities are just not there, you can always start your own business. You can try and, write up a business plan. I think EFF Youth funds the youth who has a business plan. If you have a proper business plan, I've went there before. Unfortunately, I couldn't proceed because of some personal issues. You can always go there. So I think it just takes a lot of courage and strength to just say, you know what, enough is enough. Let me do it myself and not expect the government to do it for me because he has other issues that he's dealing with that we can't always be saying government, government, government. Yes.
So Ayanda, two things about what you've said, and I'll start with just a side comment. Whether it's the president, the mayor, the premier, or your local councillor, they don't have other business. All of their business is your business. All of your business is their business. But you are right in that we do need to raise our hands and start doing things. One of those things is potentially raise our hands to be elected and lead. We must raise our hands to organize ourselves. We must raise our hands to get economically involved. And all of that means starting to organize. And I know that you also said we don't have the connections. Politics relies on two things to build power. One of them is resources, and the other is people. Sometimes you don't have the resources, and then what you need is people. If you have R1 million from one person, that's not as powerful as having R1 from 1 million people. So finding people to work with and be willing to put your efforts together with is possible. I run a program called the Democracy Builder. We do a program where we help people start projects. And those projects start, we give them 3,500 Rand for a project. From those projects, we have seen 9 community gardens. We've seen a mobile community clinic. We've seen reading projects for youth. We have seen ECD centers. Because when you don't have money, you have to rely on people. Before I take another hand, I just remembered a Thomas Sankara quote as you were talking, Ayanda. Thomas Sankara is a young 33-year-old president of Burkina Faso in the 80s. And he said, our country, sorry, there's feedback again. He says, our country produces enough to feed us all. Alas, a lack of organization, we are forced to beg for food. It's this that instills into us a spirit and an attitude of beggars. So he says, the only reason we don't have food is because we're not organizing for it, not because it is not there. But he then says, you cannot carry out fundamental change without a certain amount of madness. In this case, it comes from nonconformity and the courage to turn your old habits into something that invents the future. So I just remembered that as you were talking, Ayanda. Are there any other hands?
Thank you so much.
I'm seeing a hand that's not coming up on the screen. And there's Ntlantla and Motsibi. Let's go with Motsabi. Let's go with Ntlantla first.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I wanted to say, can we continue to having sort of this conversation often so that other youth who haven't see the potential of voting and who haven't see that as youth we have power, so that one day they can find themselves that their vote also has power, and as youth combine together, we also have power. I just wanted to pass that message and say thank you again for bringing up this topic. I'm very, very excited about this.
I'm going to be a bit bold on this one. Youth at Work doesn't know I'm going to say what I'm about to say. We have 5 months until the election. I'm willing to do a session once a month, every month until the election, with young people to give information and talk about elections and voting. So I'm willing to do an hour every month, once a month until the election, to do sessions like this to encourage young people. Mutsabi?
Hello, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
You
This
are.
is going to sound like I am. Oh, by the way, thank you so much for the session. It's very, very informative. This is going to sound like I'm piggybacking off Ntandla. I wanted to actually inquire about the same thing. Um, where can we find where do you think we can find additional resources for voter education? Because what I've noticed with our youth is that we, like Ntandla was saying, we don't really know the impact of our votes, and more less so our votes, but we don't know the impact of not voting. We don't know how that default system works, how we can overcome those things, how we can overcome this fatigue of feeling like we're voting but nothing is happening. So I just wanted to inquire and ask if you have any additional resources or additional places that we can look to find this information. Thank you.
Sure, yes, I do. So I'll send this information to Youth at Work as well, so they can just pass it along. There are 3 organizations I would encourage you to look into their work, and they've got civic information out there. One is an online community called So We Vote. So We Vote, it's on Instagram and TikTok, but they're young people and they're sharing information constantly about voting. The second one is an organization called Groundwork Collective, GWC, Groundwork Collective. It's run by Mbali Ntuli, who used to be a DA politician, but she's left politics and she's doing Groundwork Collective. And they also help with voter registration, but they've got also ongoing civic education around voting. And the third one is called Future Elect. Future Elect is run by Lindiwe Mazibuko, who is also a previous DA politician who left politics. She does 2 things at Future Elect. She runs a program that if you want to become a politician, you can join Future Elect, and they take you through a program. And then they also have an online civic education program around voting issues. So those are the 3 organizations that I will send information to Youth at Work about that can definitely give you access. They've got online content that you can use. It's very accessible. Ebenezer?
Yes, Tessa, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this was already responded to. How can we get in touch with the democracy builder? I'm asking this in relation mostly to our active youth and also our alumni on the program.
Fantastic. So the Democracy Builder, we run through Rivonia Circle, and we have a commitment this year to do it in 2 cities. So we're doing one in every ward in the city of Joburg, and one in every ward in BCM. So if you are in the city of Joburg or in Buffalo City Municipality and you want to get involved with the Democracy Builder, now is the time to do it. Please reach out to me, and I'll connect you into how we can work together on that. But we also have the toolkit that is freely available and it's easy to use. So if you are anywhere in the country and you want to learn how to do a Democracy Builder, you don't need many resources. You really just need a venue, people, perhaps some snacks for the day, and you can run a democracy builder on your own. So I'm willing to send people the toolkit, and people can use that as necessary. And then I saw one more thing that has now gone away. I'm not sure.
Sorry, Tessa, just one more thing, because I'm seeing that a lot of people are falling off the session. I just wanted to put it out there that I've shared the attendance register link, guys. Please ensure that you do not leave the meeting without completing the survey. I've also shared the QR code on the screen, so you can open your camera and scan the QR code. Yeah. But
Right.
as we wrap up, is there anything else, Tessa, maybe for those who want to get in touch with you, how can they do so?
So I'm only going to say two more things before I wrap up. One is that voter registration is not closed. There are two more voter registration weekends. One is happening in June and one is happening in August. But actually, at any time between now and August, you can go and register to vote on your own on the IEC website. So please register to vote at any time between now and August. And then the second thing is just an announcement about June 16th. So this year marks 50 years since 1976. And so the Stefan Buko Foundation is doing a mass mobilization of young people to commemorate June 16 at 50, but also to encourage more youth activism. So look out for that, the Stefan Buko Foundation, and participate in that. But thank you so much for your time, and you can get me on any of the social media platforms, Tessa Dooms, I'm there, or you can get my email address from Youth at Work, and we can take it from there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
Tessa. And also, guys, please be on the look for communication for Zelato on our WhatsApp groups. We will be sharing it soon so that you can be onboarded. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for joining.
That was very informative. Thank you.
Okay, bye.